when it's time to let them go. Hi, I'm Anne-Margaret with this week's Sacred Sunday message to raise the vibration of your body, mind, and spirit. So, this is a tough topic. Timing really is everything. And if we are in a position, which so many of us have been and are in maybe right now, where we're having a difficult time with some relationship, be a relationship with a thing or with a person, we can be very tempted sometimes to just bolt, just run. And there is a time to let go, and then there's a time to stay. And in this week's Sacred Sunday message, we're going to examine how to differentiate between those two, and then just a very simple strategy to help with how to do that if you are staying. So, thanks so much for joining me. Let's dive in. Okay, so if we are able to listen to our intuition, when we are listening to our emotions, when we're feeling different prompts from our body, our mind, our intuition are prompting us that something is off, we need to listen to that. But many times we don't want to examine what we find or what we intuit. We just want to get out of it because it's unpleasant, it's painful, it's scary, right? It threatens our ego, it threatens our sense of security. So how do we do that? How do we listen and how do we stay? So there is a time, this is a time that we're in right now where we see people ending friendships, ending marriages. I mean, the divorce rate is so high. And maybe you don't even want to deal with this on a Sunday morning. Maybe this is even too much, but there are, for those of you who are willing to do the work, there's something that comes up in all of our relationships, be it parents with letting go of children and letting them, releasing them into their adulthood, whether it be in a partnership or a marriage. I know with my couples that I counsel, it is a very heightened, intense time right now, obviously, because so many unrealistic and outside the box expectations have been put on us. So it is so critical too with those partnerships or those marriages that sometimes, you just want to bolt, you just want to get out, you just want to leave, you just want to let them go, move on, and find new horizons. But as we know, life has a very uncanny way of bringing back the lessons to us, doesn't it? If we have you guys ever noticed that? So you'll be like, I thought I learned this lesson, and then life will kind of spiral back around. So we learn in circles. We don't learn in straight lines. So we go deeper in that lesson. And when we want to leave, when we want to let something go, when we want to just unfollow or mute somebody on social media or just disconnect altogether, is it a symptom of wanting to hide? Is it a symptom of avoidance? Is it something of just wanting to not deal with conflict because we are already up to here with everything else in our lives and we can't take anymore? All right. We're going to address all of that. So have a little seat. We want to personalize this talk so that it actually makes a difference in your life and it's not just an intellectual exercise. So there is a quote by Sun Tzu, who was a Chinese military strategist. He was also a philosopher and a writer, and who is credited with writing or authoring The Art of War. If you guys have heard of that book, it's a phenomenal book, and it's so insightful. It's very short, too. It's a great read. I think it's even free on Audible if you want to download it. But The Art of War is this incredible reference in all different areas of our lives. And athletes use it, politicians use it. Across the board, we use this in different ways. But one of I would say, the most popular quote or the most well-known quote from that book is something that was popularized by a little movie known as The Godfather. And in The Godfather, he said, you guys can probably finish this, friends close and your enemies closer, right? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Now, used in The Godfather in this very mob-esque, killing off your enemy and stealing and doing illegal activities, all right, it can be taken one way. Keep your enemies closer so you know what they're doing, you know how to manipulate them, in a very egoic, extrinsically dominant or extrinsic power empowering way. Well, what if we took this quote in a very different way? What if in keeping our enemies closer, we do so because they have more to teach us? Because they're more prompting our spiritual growth than those who are making us feel comfortable and secure. What if we looked at that quote through the filter, through the eyes of spiritual growth, with that intention, with that goal in mind, rather than just clearing out the unpleasantries in our life? So the ego, we have to differentiate between the ego and the soul. So what does the ego want? The ego wants to keep us safe. The ego wants to keep us inside a box of conformity, of security, of safety, doesn't rock the boat, feels secure, feels like it has all the answers. The ego wants to keep us inside that box, which doesn't really promote spiritual growth, right? We know the only place that we really grow is outside our comfort zone. So if the ego wants to eradicate anything that challenges our comfortability or egoic sense of power, the soul wants expansion. It wants growth. It wants expansion. And it wants to experience the world. It wants to experience the full gamut of this human experience. And it also wants to feel what it's like and experience itself as a creator, as something that creates in this world, be it an actual physical, tangible item, or creating the self, creating the expression of ourselves, our lives, our belief system, our reality. Okay? So, spiritual growth is an inside job. And when we think about these challenges in our life, these challenging relationships, these challenging circumstances, whatever they are, the trap is that, of many people watching this is, they got the title and they're like, okay, can I finally cut these people out of my life? Can I finally like leave and just avoid them like the plague? So many of you are hoping to get permission from this talk to end a relationship. And you may find it, okay? So hang tight. We might get there, or we will get there, but it might not be the answer for you. In this talk, you'll figure out the barometer so that you can measure out whether or not that's the right thing to do or not for you, okay? For you. You are sovereign. You have free will. You are moving through this life as you choose. Never forget that. So 95% of the time, here's the crazy news, and I'll break it to you gently, maybe. 95% of the time, the action here in dealing with a difficult person in our lives or circumstance, the action to take is self-reflection. If we have the goal of spiritual growth, if your idea of spiritual growth is just finding a cute app to link into something that makes you feel good for the moment, or, entertaining with intellectual exercises or whatever it is, you're not going to dig deeply, and therefore you're not going to find the greatest gold in that digging. Everything that's buried underneath doesn't get excavated and brought back into wholeness with intellectual exercises or cutesy approaches to spiritual power or spiritual journey, okay, or unfolding. That work takes a lot of diligence, but it's the best kind of work. And you know what I mean? Those of you who have done that out there, okay? That is the work. That's the work that really liberates us and puts us back into an empowered state of sovereignty where we can create a reality. And don't we want that control? Don't we want that ability to create, okay? Of course we do, right? So 95% of the time we're dealing with these things, the action is actually to self-reflect. Now, 5% of the time, I'll say that the action is to take space, to take a break, postpone the self-reflection until you're in a safe place to stabilize and self-reflect. So sometimes your life is at risk when you're dealing with something difficult. Now, sometimes we act like our life is at risk, but really our egoic survival is at risk, okay? We're afraid of egoic death rather than physical death. So sometimes, though, our lives are at risk, and we do need to take measures to protect ourselves, protect our children. Obviously, there's a time and a place for that. And at the same time, that 5% of the time, it is just a postponement of the self-reflection, because what there is to do is to go deeper. Why did we attract that in our lives? What are we learning from it? Not to punish ourselves. We're not self-shaming. We're not self-blaming. It's not about that at all. It's about looking at the blind spots that we have, why we are attracting what we're attracting. All right? So we can look for the spirits, like the spiritual growth nuggets that are buried deeply. And we can do that as a purpose, as a focus for ourselves, so that we can get stronger, so that we can feel freer, so that we can be more connected with that incredible high frequency of love, of compassion, of joy, rather than just suffering through our lives. And doing this and really searching for those little spiritual nuggets or those big spiritual nuggets that are buried deep and that we can only access by doing the tough work, we truly increase our spiritual prowess. We become untouchable. You know people like this, right? It's like it doesn't matter what's happening in their life or what they're dealing with or what they've been through. They have emerged with a resiliency and an empowerment and a sense of inner peace that it's like they're untouchable. It doesn't matter what life throws at them. It doesn't impact their joy. It doesn't impact their capacity to love, to express, okay, to create. So every relationship that we have, when it's relationship to circumstance or relationship to others, is an opportunity for our growth, okay? But, those of you are like, but I need to get out of this relationship. Okay, the growth may happen outside the relationship, but we cannot escape the relationship and just leave and think that everything is going to get better, all right? We know that. So personalize this talk. Who is it in your life? What is it? What circumstance or what person? Where is the issue, all right? The opportunity for spiritual growth is studying the polarity. That will reveal the prison that you're in. So studying the polarity. They're on that bank. You're on this bank. They have this position. You have that position. In studying that polarity, you will find the prison that you're in, the filter through which you're looking that is keeping you limited. All right. So your mind, your belief system, your filters, and even your addictions. All right. So let's study the polarity. Let's look at the clarity around the upset. So what isn't working in the relationship? What isn't working? Now this is a two-part question, and that's a critical distinction because most of the time we just want to, most of the time we just want to have that one way of approaching things, okay? We just want to say, what is wrong with them? What they did this, they wronged me, or whatever it is. But the second part is, I feel this. What this does is feelings reveal triggers. Feelings reveal triggers, right? So critical. So what am I feeling? Yeah, what are they doing? But what am I feeling? The second step is alchemizing. All right, this is tough, but in alchemizing it, you ask the question, how is this a gift? What weaker muscle in me is this triggering? Is this strengthening if I embrace this? And it's expansive rather than contractive, right? So we're not going, it's my ability to leave. It's my ability to know how dumb people are, whatever. No, if it doesn't breed peace and love in your heart, you're off. You're off the spectrum. You're not in alignment with what will truly be empowering, okay? So expansive rather than contractive. The question to ask is, does this remind you of someone else's behavior that caused pain in your life? So the way that this person's behaving or whatever you're dealing with, does this remind you of something? Maybe it's something from your childhood. Maybe it's something else. What does it remind you of? Is this a gift for healing that childhood trauma? All right. So the second thing is here. Let me look here. The remedy, the third thing is remedy. So the acceptance or the forgiveness of the grief. So that's the first thing. It's accepting whatever you're dealing with, whatever the trigger is. What is that? And accepting that this is just the way that they are. This is what you're dealing with, okay? If you're not accepting that that's where they are and that's what you need to forgive, or that's what you need to accept, they're not behaving like you want them to behave, right? So the inner control freak would be like, but I need them to do this. Do you really? Or can you accept that that is the way they are and that they have a different gift for you, a different thing that they're offering, all right? This doesn't mean resignation, guys. Hear me clearly. There's always room for growth. There's always room for new perspectives. What this is that it does mean is cleaning or clearing up your filter that you're listening to them through so you can receive their wisdom, okay? So clearing up the filter so that you can receive their wisdom. They might have a unique gift for you that you are not receiving because you're trying to keep them in this box of, you need to be this way, all right? We all know how that feels, and it doesn't feel good. So how can you reap the benefits of the relationship by seeing them clearly, letting go of needing them to be a certain way? That might open something up very easily. The second part of this remedy is communication. What needs to be said? What needs to be said that hasn't been expressed? Is there a need? Sometimes we don't share our needs because we're afraid of looking vulnerable. Like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need from them? Maybe it's as simple as sharing that, okay? And it sometimes is received, and sometimes they need some time to receive that. So you want to give them space, okay? Or how did you shift that filter that you're listening through? Have you forgotten that you're on the same team? I see this with a lot of my couples that I do counseling or coaching with the relationship coaching. They forget that they're on the same team and they start fighting one another because they have repressed anger from their childhood or from some other trauma they experienced, or maybe they've been keeping tabs and fear stacking or evidence stacking against their relationship. So whatever that is, it can be, it's so detrimental to not to recognize that you might be listening through the filter of this person is my enemy. All right. So let's keep going. So communication is that second step of that remedy. The first step is that acceptance or that forgiveness. The third step is redirection. Redirection. Maybe you just need to focus on something different. Maybe you need to stop focusing on everything that partner or that person is doing that's wrong, or everything that you disagree with. Maybe you can recognize and celebrate all the things that you love about that person. We see people canceling each other or unfriending each other, whatever it is, online because they voice their truth about one detail, and then we throw them into this camp of, oh, I don't like them anymore. They're liberal, or I don't like them anymore. They're conservative, or I don't like them anymore because I don't like what they're saying. Okay, well, welcome to life, guys. Like, we all have different perspectives, but it doesn't mean that we've lost our value for one another. When we do that, we miss out on each other, and that's why we're talking about this today. So maybe you focus on all their strengths. Maybe you focus on the difference they're making in your life, or how they're challenging you, and how you can use that to strengthen yourself. So codependency can also be that area. So maybe you've lost your autonomy. Maybe you've established a more codependent relationship in your life now, and you've lost that autonomy. You've lost your ability to say, I'm responsible for my own happiness. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to tiptoe around me or to refer to me in the perfect way or whatever it is. Rather than setting ourselves up to be weaker and more dependent on other people to behave in a certain way that we want to control, we want to dictate, how do we allow for them to be the way that they are and take ownership for our own happiness? All right, I could do a whole talk on that, right? But it is so challenging because that really requires we take responsibility. But here's the crazy thing, all right? When we feel like something that's upsetting us is like a weighted yoke around our necks that is drowning us, and we're trying to tread water. If we just change our focus, if we shift to what we love about that person and focus on that, our whole perspective changes. And really, what we love, this is a little sobering, but what we love is what we give our attention to. So you might think that you are loving your partner, but if you're focusing on all the wrong things, you really love drama. You really love conflict. You really love the addiction to control. What do you love? It might be a painful realization. Maybe you are addicted to struggle and you love struggle and you feel like the person doesn't love me unless they're fighting with me. You might be loving your false beliefs or fear or busyness, okay? So all of those aspects are part of how you can take responsibility for, well, how are you spending your time? Where do you spend your love, which is your time, your attention? And who belongs in that inner circle? All right, so if you're the barometer here of when we're trying to figure out, like, do we let go or do we dig in and allow this to be self-reflective for our own spiritual growth? Here it is. Here's the barometer. If you're still triggered by this person, you speak of them negatively in any way, or you feel about them and you kind of eye roll, or you like, yeah, what, my mom, or oh, my sister, or ugh, yeah, my husband, like blah, blah, blah. If you're speaking about them negatively, you're triggered. There's an opportunity for spiritual growth for you. All right. So if you turn it around rather than, oh, it's an opportunity for them to learn how to be better people, we have enough going on right here, right? So asking yourself for that. And when you're forgiving others, it doesn't mean erasing or condoning. You're just letting go of being re-triggered by that every single time. So it's important, like, allow love to guide you. Be compassionate with yourself and with them. So maybe you need to take a little break. Maybe you need to step away and have a little more compassion, so that you need to take a few breathers, or maybe go and take a day for yourself and come back and feel what you're feeling, rather than just kind of bury everything. All right. So is that what you need to do? Maybe it is just letting go. Because if you take a step away, you might need to accept your current limitations, your current weaknesses, but don't blame that on someone else. Maybe you just need some space. And you may need time to forgive yourself for those very human weaknesses. But don't throw in the towel, all right? Don't throw in the towel yet. Commit to your own growth and see what happens in the relationship. It might completely transform. And it doesn't mean avoidance if you need to take a break, right? It doesn't mean avoidance. You will forfeit your spiritual growth if you just completely leave that person behind, or leave that circumstance behind, without healing the trigger or using it for your expansion. All right? So, because life, we know that life guarantees that we'll face the same challenge. If we run away from one thing, leave that job, run to a new one, leave that relationship, run to another one, or just be alone, we're going to keep receiving that lesson from the universe, from God, from our soul, okay? Because it wants to free us from the prison that we are in. All right? And lastly, I'll just say, is it really 100%? Yeah, 100% of the time, any conflict is an opportunity for your growth. Is it time to let them go? Maybe it's time to let go of making them wrong. Maybe it's time to let go of trying to control them, or wanting them to just be a certain way, or wanting them to not hurt you or cause pain in your life. Maybe it's time to let go of that and look at the pain, why it's hurting you, why it's triggering you. All right? Because once you stop triggering that over and over again through avoidance, and just running into that sword over and over again, you'll stop and say, oh, let me redirect this energy. Let me be smarter about this energy. All right, that's going to be empowering. That's going to create spiritual prowess in a way that you're going to feel so empowered, so free, and you'll starve the negativity. You'll starve the blame game. You won't get caught in the victim mentality. All right? So the key here is taking responsibility, using it as an opportunity. Remembering you've got your inner circle. Yeah, have your inner circle, protect your inner circle, nurture those relationships, and recognize there's a limited real estate in that inner circle. All right? But doesn't mean you need to keep pushing people out. Just give attention to those you want to give attention to. Then there's an outer circle, right? What is a commitment you can align with that feels right to engage with those relationships that are not in that super tight, intimate inner circle? And then there's out of balance. Now, don't allow yourself to give energy to those things and those people. Just don't allow yourself to give energy to them. Unless they're triggering you, then go, what is this? Get curious. Why am I triggered? Okay? And it doesn't mean speaking negatively about those people you're not giving energy to. You're literally not giving your energy, your negative thinking, your thought, or anything to them, period. Instead, you just recognize you're not seeing them as less than or unworthy, right? You just acknowledge that they're not a match for your inner circle, your outer circle, right? They're just not a match. And that you can lovingly release them with blessings, with good wishes. All right, that will keep you in a healthy spiritual prowess. Okay, that will be empowering. That will center you in love. I've put references in the notes. If you need some couples counseling, reach out to me directly, or one-on-one coaching just for you in your relationship or your work or whatever is going on for you. I also put oils that are amazing vibrational hacks. So oil for forgiveness, also to increase the passion so you can redirect your focus and focus on what really makes you happy, what really lights you up, rather than all the negative stuff you're focusing on. Okay? You wonder why things aren't manifesting. You're not focusing on the right things. And then also like eucalyptus oil, maybe you need to release grief around something. That'll free you up. Or wintergreen, that's the oil for the control freaks out there, okay? And thyme, also thyme oil, or cooking with thyme in your meals this week. That really is about releasing unresolved negativity. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining me today, and feel free to share this. Please share this message so other people can be helped by anything that was offered today. And until next time, keep raising the vibration. All right, bye, everybody.